From the land of lakes, this is 10,000 Takes, brought to you by Minnesota Score Radio. Wally and Eric back for yet another week as we slice and dice the always busy, always topical, super saturated Minnesota sports scene, and yes, so many things to get into. And I promise we will get into them. But it's all about the purple. Hey, the Minnesota Vikings are 7-2, although a lot of people act like they're 2-7 the way they've played the past couple of weeks. But nonetheless, they're close to Detroit in the NFC North. They have one of the top records in the NFL. And yet guys like you still aren't impressed, are you?
I didn't say that. I just said that Sam
Sam
Darnold hasn't played well the last 2 weeks. What more is there to say? I'll say this. If he doesn't play better, if he continues to throw the ball to the other team, they're probably not going to make a deep run this year. I think that's fair to say. I don't know. He's been really good most of the year. I think he's just kind of come back down to earth a little bit now. He threw those 3 picks, actually threw 4. One of them got called back against this past weekend against Jacksonville. Got Tennessee this week. That's another game that they're favored to and should win. And then they got the Bears, who are just stumbling now.
Yeah, they're cratering all of a sudden.
Yeah, the Bears look good early.
They've not recovered from the Hail Mary loss to Washington.
You're right.
They've lost 3 in a row since that game.
That's true.
And to your point on Sam Darnold, he's in a midseason slump. Now, I think the key is, does it become an even longer slump, or is it just a hiccup? It's a 17-game schedule.
Right.
It's tough to be excellent every week. Have you checked out Patrick Mahomes' numbers? I know Kansas City's 9-0, but his QB rating is under 70. He's only got like 15 touchdown passes, 9 interceptions. It's not the Patrick Mahomes we're used to. Believe me, I'm not comparing Darnold to Mahomes.
Yes, please.
Patrick's got 3 of these. They're called Super Bowl rings. But what I am saying is it's a tough league. It's ultra competitive, and the Vikings should be thankful they have a defense, at least the last 2 weeks, that has gotten back to their early form of excellence.
No question.
And I guess it doesn't matter who kicks the football, Will Reichert or Parker Romo, because Parker Romo was the offense in Jacksonville.
He got all 12 points. And let me say this, too. For those of you who are wanting the backup quarterback to get in, Nick Mulligan's, forget about it. Your best chance is Sam Darnold.
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt.
There's no question that he is going to give you the best opportunity to win. We saw what Nick Mullins did last year. I mean, he's okay if you got to run him in there for a few plays or for a quarter or maybe even for a game or two. But long term, Sam Darnold has to play like he played at the beginning of the season for this team to make a run.
He knows it. I'll give Jacksonville credit. They had a defensive scheme that really made Justin Jefferson not irrelevant, but they took him out of the game for a lot of the action. And I think Darnold's so used to focusing on him, and why wouldn't you be? I mean, he's the ultimate safety net for a quarterback. But some of those throws, he just tried to squeeze him into triple coverage, double coverage. Those are the mistakes you can't make. You're going to have interceptions.
Especially in the red zone.
Red zone interceptions, end zone picks. Those are daggers. But fortunately for Minnesota, you had a guy on the other side, Mac Jones, who made even more mistakes. And let's not forget, Mac Jones, like Sam Darnold, once upon a time, first-round draft choice, supposed to be the next great thing. And it just goes to show you, draft status in the NFL means nothing.
Yeah, and look, Trevor Lawrence hasn't been very good. He was the number 1 overall pick. Let's not forget that a couple of years ago. And I mean, he's had a few games here and there. He had a good stretch last year, but I don't know. He's been kind of average this year.
He has. He's been a roller coaster his entire career. I don't know what they're thinking of Trevor Lawrence down in Jacksonville. And he's got a quarterback-friendly head coach in Doug Peterson, who played the position. He's coached it, and he's won a Super Bowl as a head coach with Philadelphia. I think what we're seeing is teams get a book on players. They get enough video and data, and they figure out ways to make somebody like Sam Darnold not look good, force him into mistakes. Now, the Vikings can look at that same tape. KOC will try to coach him up, and they'll probably, maybe come up with another game plan that suits his strengths. But when you've got Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, T.J. Hawkinson, Aaron Jones, you got to get touchdowns.
Exactly.
They got fortunate down in Jacksonville.
Yeah, they didn't get any touchdowns down in Jacksonville. They got 4 field goals. against an anemic offense that went against a very good
That was
Vikings
a Bud Grant-like win.
Yes, it was. It was like a Vikings-Bears game from like the mid-'70s.
I love it.
You know,
Bring back
I'm
defense.
sure you do. All right, we're going to talk Gophers next. Gopher football, Gopher sports. The AD coming up.
That's right. We'll be on the mark with Mark Coyle. This is 10K Takes Your Purple Ticket.
On any given day in New Ulm, come see what's brewing on any given day in New Ulm.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect. Maya? Oh, I love your earring. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision, it's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
Welcome back. 10,000 Takes, Wally and Eric. And, this time of year, it's all about football. And certainly over on the campus of the University of Minnesota, the Gophers have been the talk of the town for much of the season. And joining us now to talk more about Gopher athletics, a little bit more about the football team, Mark Coyle. He is the athletic director and has been for several years now. Mark, welcome to the show. Let me just throw this out at you right away. How important is it for this football program to continue to be relevant and competing at a high level?
Well, first off, Wally and Eric, I appreciate you having me on the show to talk about Minnesota athletics. And, Wally, you ask a great question. I mean, we talk all the time about the importance of being relevant in the Big Ten and nationally. And when we talk about relevant, we talk about getting the bowl games and postseason opportunities. And obviously, we've won 7 in a row in our bowl games, which is a great story to tell. We're bowl eligible this year. But football, there's no doubt it drives about 90% of our revenue. It supports all of our programs. Men's hockey, men's basketball obviously generates revenue that helps cover our 19 sports programs, but football is a big, big part of it. And in this new line of conference expansion, CFP expansion, you want to be relevant in football and give your teams an opportunity to compete at the highest level.
And as you know, Mark, NIL is here to stay, name, image, and likeness. I saw a report this week that said Coy Parrish gets $250,000 from Dinkytown Athletics, and it may go to $1 million next season. You can talk about that if you want. Are those numbers accurate? But not just Coy Parrish. You have to find a way to take care of your athletes, don't you?
Yeah, well, we've talked about it. Our fans have been so great, and our partners with Dinkytown Athletes have done such a wonderful job with our name, image, and likeness for our student athletes. And our fans have really stepped up. We announced $1 million gift maybe a week and a half, 10 days ago, and we did a matching program. And I know our fans have stepped up and helped with Dinkytown Athletes in our NIL program. And what I'm really proud about is, we talk all the time. You're not running a sprint here, you're running a marathon. Name, image, and likeness is not going to go away. I feel like at Minnesota we have built it the right way. I'm very proud to say that every one of our student athletes that has a contract with Dinkytown Athletes has received payment for that contract. I bet we're one of a small handful of schools that can say that. So we're very proud of the way our collective operates, the way it works with our student athletes. And as you said, Eric, it's not going away. We need to continue to be aggressive in that space and continue to raise money, because that's going to be the separator as we move forward, especially in this competitive Big Ten with the expansion of the 4 West Coast programs.
Mark, how does the formula change when they go to universities actually being able to write checks to the athletes?
Yeah, well, Wally, as you know, they've talked about there's been a House settlement, which is a settlement of a lot of the legal lawsuits against Division I athletics and the Power 4 conferences. And so when we will be able to start revenue share, the judge is expected to give approval in April of 2025. And if that approval happens, schools will be able to start to share revenue with their student athletes starting on July 1st of 2025 for this summer. So obviously, we're very fortunate to be a member of the Big Ten Conference. We have the resources we need to do to compete at a high level. And so that revenue share will be a part of NIL. So you're going to still have Dingytown athletes. You're going to still have them in that space. That's why, to Eric's question, it's so important that we continue to build up our NIL fund, because that's not going to go away. And we'll also have revenue share that we can share with our student athletes as well. So again, our goal is to make sure that we are relevant in our programs. And the way you're relevant is by attracting good quality kids to come to your program and help you compete in the Big Ten and on a national level.
And Mark, as you know, the Twin Cities is a major collegiate market, much bigger than, say, Iowa City or South Bend, some of these other smaller dots on the map. You've got Fortune 500 companies right here. You've got General Mills, you've got 3M, you've got Cargill, et cetera. I'm sure you've already knocked on their door, but can you get them on board? Can that be a windfall eventually?
That would be awesome, Eric. And we our partner Gopher Sports Properties that handles our multimedia rights. We work closely with them and their conversations with different corporations, and I think we've doubled the number of organizations that have gotten involved with NIL with our student athletes, which is a huge step for us. And you're exactly right. Our friends in Iowa City, our friends in Madison don't have the depth of businesses that we have here in the Twin Cities, being in a major market. And so as we continue to try to separate ourselves with NIL, there's no doubt those corporations and their support is going to play a huge, huge role. And, if you look at Affinity Plus, who's a great partner of ours, they're a great partner of Dingytown athletes. They feature Mara Braun on the trains going through the city and so forth. So we've got some really good partners, but there's no doubt we need to grow that base. And again, we've got, you're around our program enough. We've got 600 student athletes. We have really, really good young men and women who take great pride representing Minnesota, and they'd be great ambassadors for so many of those great corporations here in the Twin Cities in Minnesota.
Mark, it's funny, when you started out as an athletic director, Boise State, Syracuse, now Minnesota, there was no NIL, no transfer portal. Let's talk portal, because it can send shockwaves through a program. I remember at the Big Ten tournament at Target Center where Tom Izzo said, watch out for Minnesota. They've got young guys in basketball. They're going to be good next season. And then boom, most of the guys left. How do you react to that? How does Ben Johnson and the coaches deal with the portal?
Well, that's where name, image, and likeness is such a big part of that portal, and I think if you talk to anybody in college athletics, I think everybody's very supportive of NIL. The challenge is there hasn't been much guidelines around it. And so programs can come in, and with that portal, they're using NIL to attract kids to different programs. And I give Ben and his staff a lot of credit. It is what it is. We're going to continue to battle our way through that. We have 8 new guys in our team this year. I tell people that sometimes you win with the portal, sometimes you lose with the portal. So we've been able to be on both sides of that stick in terms of that portal and the kids that transfer in and transfer out. And now it's up for us as we continue to adapt to this new model. I do think the revenue share that will be put in place starting July 1st will help Minnesota for us to continue to be competitive. But again, the portal has changed a lot in college athletics. I think, and I don't want to misspeak, Eric, but I think if I understood correctly across the Big Ten, I don't think any Big Ten team is returning at least 3 starters in men's basketball. That's how many kids left Big Ten programs across the conference this past season.
Incredible. And when I heard about Coy Parrish, who's made a tsunami-like splash as a freshman for the Gophers, potentially getting $1 million next season, my first reaction was, wait a minute, that sounds more like Ohio State or Alabama or Oregon or Notre Dame. So if Minnesota's actually doing that, that's got to resonate, Mark. That's got to tell kids you can come to Minnesota. If you're good enough, you'll get the NIL cash. Am I right?
100%. There's no doubt we want to compete at a high level. And as I mentioned earlier, we have attacked NIL. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And I think, you're starting to hear, stories about student athletes who didn't get their NIL dollars that they were promised. You start to hear more and more stories about that. And again, what we've done at Minnesota, every kid that has had an agreement with Dingytown athletes has been paid in full. And so we think that's going to be a difference maker for us. You've heard me talk about this all the time. Doing it right in Minnesota matters. We're defined by our actions, not our words, and our actions speak high volumes in terms of how we treat our student athletes with respect to NIL. And there's no doubt we're a very, very competitive program. We're the best conference in America, and we need to continue to grow that NIL to help us compete at that high level.
All right, back to the portal for a moment. How difficult, and what are your discussions been with your coaches with regard to the portal and NIL and the changing landscape? Because we've seen so many coaches now across the country walk away from college sports because this has become just a whole new, system that they're just didn't sign up for originally.
Yeah, that's a great question, Wally. You see, I think there's a high number of AD jobs that are open. There's a high number of coaching positions that have become open because it's so different from what we all signed up for when we got there. And again, if you talk to anybody in college athletics, everybody is fully supportive of NIL. And if you take like a Caitlin Clark, for example, and her partnership with State Farm, that was true NIL. So many of these deals, have turned into not true NIL, and that's led to more transfers, more portals, et cetera. And so, again, what we talk to our coaches about is, and again, I don't mean to repeat myself, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And I truly believe that if you look at those programs that have great success over the long haul, the one theme is consistency. And how can you develop consistency? And so we've tried really hard. I think last year with our football program, we had up to 17 kids that could have left. 16 returned. That means we're doing something right. Men's basketball, we have 8 newcomers who got hit hard there. If you remember, prior to Dawn's arrival with women's basketball, I think we lost 7 or 8 kids in 1 year. But Dawn's been able to bring in some really good transfers into our program with Mara and Amaya and those kids and Mallory that are already with our program. So again, it's kind of that yin and that yang, but we just got to find that balance. But obviously, high school recruiting and developing kids is the backbone to any program, and that's why Coy's such a special student athlete. For him to be a Minnesota kid, come to Minnesota, and he sees what's happening to him and the notoriety he's getting, the NIL opportunities he's getting. We think more kids can do that here in the state of Minnesota.
And I won't sugarcoat it. I know you'll agree. It was a disappointment going to New Jersey and losing to Rutgers, but the Gophers still have a chance. Penn State's coming here a week from Saturday. It'll be a full house at Huntington Bank Stadium. That's more revenue. And then you go to Wisconsin for a trophy game. If you can get those two, I know PJ takes them, one game victories at a time. But big picture, you get those two, you're in a pretty good bowl game, aren't you?
Yeah, there's no doubt. And obviously, the Big Ten, it's just so competitive. And with the Rutgers game, we will not make any excuses. Credit to Rutgers that they won the game, they beat us. That they had that bye week. They got a lot of their guys back. When they had that bye week, the running back wasn't back, but they played a good game and they beat us, and we missed out on some opportunities. And in this league, you can't feel sorry for yourself. We've got a bye week this week, a chance to get a little bit more healthy. And then obviously we have Penn State, who's ranked in the top 5 in the country, coming in here. I have not seen the new CFP rankings that are coming out today, I believe, but we'll have a chance to battle Penn State. And then, as you noticed, or mentioned, then we go to Wisconsin to finish the season. So we have 2 huge opportunities in front of us. I know Coach Fleck and the coaching staff and the student athletes are excited about the Penn State game coming up here. We'll do our best against them, and then, of course, we'll do our best competing against Wisconsin. But 2 huge opportunities that have a chance to put us in a really good bowl game.
Well, Mark, you're right about one thing. Nobody's going to feel sorry for you if you lose a football game. Everybody's got their own issues.
Yeah,
So,
no, I give Hugh McCutcheon, our former volleyball coach, a lot of credit. I think a few years ago we lost a tough match in the NCAA tournament to Oregon, and Hugh walked into the press conference, post-game press conference, and the reporter asked him, oh my gosh, you just had a tough loss, and so forth and so on. And Hugh said it's an occupational hazard. One team's going to win and one team's going to lose. And I remember that line often. And unfortunately, when you compete on the weekend, one team wants to win really bad. One team's going to get a loss, and you can't feel sorry for yourself. You just got to tie your shoes up and get ready for the next week because there's no downtime in this league.
no doubt. Mark, we appreciate you spending some time with us. We'll check in with you again down the road, and good luck to the Gophers coming up against Penn State.
Hey, Wally and Eric, we really appreciate you, and thanks for all your support of our student athletes.
Thanks,
so
Mark.
much. Go Gophers.
Thank you. He is Mark Coyle. He is the athletic director of men's athletics at the University of Minnesota. Back with more here on 10,000 Takes after this timeout. Stay with us.
You can visit llcoolj.info to understand what the government grants really hit for. You can visit llcoolj.org.com to make sense. Whatever you sell, the government's buying it. You don't need an LLC or an S corporation. We the people. We already pledged allegiance to this nation. It's up to us if the bell toll of freedom rings. That's word from Olivia's child, Sammy's favorite sibling, and I'm out.
In Lakeville, Minnesota, dozens of meeting venues are ready to host your next corporate event, banquet, and holiday party. Lakeville has unique conference facilities, a variety of hotels, an abundance of team-building options, and dining that are sure to impress. For suggestions that suit your needs, please call the Lakeville Convention and Visitors Bureau at 952-469-2020 or go to visitlakeville.org. Lakeville, we mean business.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect.
Maya?
Oh, I love your earring. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision, it's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
On any given day in New Ulm, come see what's brewing. On any given day in New Ulm.
Well, I know the baseball season is in the rearview mirror, but the
Yeah,
Twins,
go Dodgers.
again. The Twins continue to shuffle the deck, so to speak. We already heard the announcement that the Pohlads are looking for a buyer, so they're going to sell the team. We know that Thad Levine has left the organization. He was one of the co-presidents of operations or some such thing. Now Dave St. Peter, longtime president. He's been president of the team for 22 years. He started as an intern in 1990, Dave did. Rose all the way through the organization, became president, has been for the last 22 years. Now he steps into an advisory role, and our guy Derek Falvey now takes over dueling roles where he is kind of the head of baseball and he's the head of the business side. An interesting move to kind of put both into the same person's hands.
Yeah. I want to wish Dave St. Peter well. He's always been a stand-up guy.
Absolutely.
You want to get him on the air, he would come on the air. Definitely put a lot into that organization, so good luck to Dave St. Peter. Yeah, a lot of moves. It's a team in flux, right? As you said, the Twins are on the block. Don't know what's going to happen with the ownership sale. They've gotten rid of coaches. They've reshuffled the front office. Is there any mention in all these news releases coming out from PR about payroll expansion? About maybe adding some pieces to this puzzle? I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, no, not until at least the squad is sold.
They're paring it down, right? They're going to make sure whoever buys it doesn't have a lot of debt and overhead. And who is going to buy it? We have no idea. What's the timeline? And remember, they might not get sold. Artie Moreno thought he had the LA Angels sold a couple of years ago. That fell through. Remember the guy that wrote the book, Tom Clancy, the author?
Oh, boy.
He thought he had the Minnesota Vikings. Reggie Fowler, that all fell through.
Well, and let's not forget that Donald Trump once had a bid in on the Minnesota Twins. Well, he did.
You're right.
He did, and the Pohlads ended up with it. So there you have it. You just never know what might happen when it comes to sales in big-time sports. Okay, speaking of big-time, your Minnesota Wild have been really good at the start of this season, and a combination of the goaltending, I think that's fair to say, and they're just playing better overall. I mean, it's been really good.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, they really only had one clunker. That was the game against the LA Kings last week.
Of course, you bring that one up.
But other than that, they've almost been flawless. They had a hiccup against Chicago on the road to finish up the long trip a few days ago. But you brought up the goaling. Philip Gustafsson has been brilliant. Marc-Andre Fleury, I think, has maybe done better than we thought in what will be his final year of a Hall of Fame career.
Well, and I think part of that for him is he's able to rest more. I mean, if they can depend on Philip Gustafson and Fleury can spot start here and there, I think maybe that rest helps him in between. And if they need him to go for a couple in a row, then he's okay. He doesn't need to, be in there 6-7 games
He's
in a
a
row.
great cushion for the Wild to have.
No doubt.
I think Joel Eriksson Ek is certainly a guy that they really can count on. We know about the greatness of Kirill Kaprizov. Matt Boldy is a very young guy who's getting better and better. So, everything trending up for the Minnesota Wild. The only bad news is they're in the same division with Winnipeg.
Yeah.
I mean,
They don't lose.
The Jets are literally at 34,000 feet above sea level right now.
Yes, they are. Quickly, your Timberwolves now are headed into this in-season tournament. I don't know what it means. I don't really care about it. I'm not sure the fan base knows or cares. All I know, and we'll move on for this, is that you recognize it because they changed the colors of the courts.
Yeah,
so you got all these goofy-looking courts.
If they win, though, is it the Cup or whatever, in-season
NBA Cup.
NBA Cup, they'll get a banner because the Lynx won it in the WNBA, and they have a banner up now at Target Center. And goodness knows the Timberwolves need a banner.
Oh, boy, okay. It's the race to get a banner at Target Center.
Banner season.
Yes. We'll be back with Takes of the Day coming up next. You won't want to miss it. Stay with us.
Finding the ideal place to stay is important for business travelers. Lakeville, Minnesota is conveniently located off I-35, just south of the Twin Cities, with a variety of hotel choices. Lakeville offers convenient amenities such as shopping, walking trails, golf, and more. Our unique meeting spaces, historic downtown, live music, and over 60 dining options are sure to impress. Book your next stay in Lakeville and experience convenience, comfort, and quality. Find your perfect hotel at visitlakeville.org.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect. Maya?
Oh, I love your earring. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision, it's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
10K takes on television as we wrap up yet another episode.
Yes.
Big shout out to the viewers in the Twin Cities, all the way up to the Twin Ports.
Indeed.
Up and down the I-35 corridor. They are watching to see what your mood is. Demanding, angry, or dare I say it, are you happy?
Well, probably more demanding than anything here. You notice we talked about the Twins a little bit earlier in the show, kind of shuffling the deck. Dave St. Peter's stepping away as president of the team. Well, how about shuffling the deck inside the clubhouse, i.e. making some trades? You know they're not going to go out and spend money. We had that discussion as well. They're not going to go out and get Soto. They're not going to go out and spend big bucks on some of these free agents. Their only chance to change things is to make a trade. And how are you going to get anything back? Well, you're going to have to trade one of those big pieces. I say it's time to make the trade of Byron Buxton and or Carlos Correa. Heck, they never play. Buxton played, 95, 100 games, and we're having a parade because he finally got into a season where he played less or more than half the games. Same with Carlos Correa. He has been injured the last couple of years. No wonder the Giants pass. No wonder the Mets pass. Carlos, when he's in there, great, but he has not been reliable. We need these guys on the field. And oh, by the way, Royce Lewis, not that much better. We need these guys to play every day, or the Minnesota Twins are going to be consistently trying to find themselves trying to win more games than they lose.
Well, let's check out that mood meter. Andy is a demanding diva, as I suspected. All right, well, my take of the day, let's give a shout out to Ben, the golden retriever. In these polarized times, in the divided states of America, everybody, red or blue, came together for a bad and sad cause because Ben, Kirk Herbstreit's golden retriever, who travels with him to all the college and NFL games that he broadcasts, he goes on the private jet, gets a credential, field pass, all that stuff, game day. But when Kirk told us that he lost Ben because of cancer, the nation mourned. I saw so many tributes on Facebook and other social media platforms, and it came during a very rough and turbulent week. Ben, we're going to miss you. And it's just more of an example that we need more animal power on this earth. Humans are messing things up.
Boy, that's for sure.
All right. And on that note, we got to go. Thanks for tuning us in. We are 10K Takes, your sports ticket.